Welcome. Well, today I'm going to look at Palantir for the first time, the first video about Palantir that I've done. I haven't really looked in depth at the company before, so I'm coming to it fresh. You might know more than me about it, but I'll get my perspective on it. I'm recording live here, or live recorded. They'll upload after this straight away so I can get this video out to you. So let's look at the share price as we speak. We can see that pre-market it's down 1.93%. It's just had earnings not long ago, as we can see. So if we go to the 5-day, we can see that it's up 38.84%, and that big jump there that went up. So it's up 46% since then. And 1 month, we go back 1 month, it's 45.47. We could say it's euphoria, AI euphoria. It's been caught up in that. But if we go back 6 months, we can see it's up 55% in 6 months. So it's had a really good run. Now I'm going to flick over here to Ticker Terminal. I'm going to put a link in the description for Ticker. If you don't know what it is, you can check it out. If we go to the all part here, we can see that the CAGR, compound annual growth rate, since the IPO is 27.9%. So you probably won't find much better than that, but it hasn't been public for that long, really. Let's face it, but it's been doing well. It's had a roller coaster ride. It's in the last year or so because of the AI exuberance. It's done very well, but is there something to it? It's up 127.3% since then, all time, but it's had a good run lately. It had a big dip in 2022, along with many other tech stocks. Would have been the time to buy, you would have thought. Look at those prices down there, $6.22, and today it's 24.38. So doing pretty well, since then. And if we go over here, what I'm interested in, this is the way that I analyze things. I have a checklist of looking at it, but this is Ticker as well here, Ticker Terminal. It shows you the ownership. So we can see some of the ownership here. The top owners of the stock, of the company, Vanguard Group, which you'd expect, institutional ownership of 9%, percentage of shares outstanding, 9%. But look at number 2 here. Look at number 2, Peter Thiel. So he's a pretty controversial figure. He's been in Palantir since the beginning, of course. He's been, high profile investor with the Founders Fund, and known to be one of the first investors in Facebook. So, but he says some controversial things at times. I read his biography. He's definitely a controversial figure, but he owns 6.31% according to this of the shares still. So he's sort of more in the background, and Alex Karp is very much in the foreground. He says some controversial things as well. It's sort of a polarizing kind of company, a polarizing stock for some of the things that they do. I do know a bit about it. I guess I'm not completely fresh to it. I do know quite a bit about the company, but I haven't dived super deep into it because I haven't really considered buying it. But is it worth buying? Let's have a look. Or is it this going to be compounding machine driven by AI, this AI behemoth into the future? It's quite possible. I saw a YouTube video by Peter Thiel a while ago. I think it's from 2015, where it's called "Competition is for Losers." So he got into this to monopolize the market. He talks about companies that monopolize from the beginning, starting in small markets, and in Palantir's case, the government, defense, area, and dominating, and then going out in concentric circles, and that's how you become a monopoly. So that's what they're going for. They have it since the beginning. So Peter Thiel, number 2 there. If we go down, BlackRock and all the usual suspects there in terms of institutional ownership, but what we want to see in Morgan Stanley and ARK Investment. Here we are, Kathy Wood. So 0.53% of shares outstanding when this was last updated, which is 266.7, value of shares, $266.7 million worth. And we also have, let's go down a bit further, because here we see Alex Karp, 156.8 million. He owns 0.31% of the company, which, I guess that's quite a lot. 156 million. That's a substantial amount. So we want to see, we want to see inside ownership here. So that, they're fully invested in this top list here, along with institutions. So that's good to see. Let's move on. Actually, let's not move on. Let's go back here, because I want to say one of the checklists about the company when I'm first finding out about companies, first investigating companies. First question is, what does the company do? What does it do? And here we've got a description of the company that's interesting. Palantir Technologies builds and deploys software platforms for the intelligence community in the United States to assist in counterterrorism investigations and operations. So again, that's sort of can be controversial. A lot of people don't like that sort of thing. It's been sort of accused of being involved in spying. Is it the software the NSA uses? Back in, say, I think it was 2013, 2014 with Edward Snowden. Was it involved in that? Is that the software it uses? So there's different opinions on that, whether people want to get involved in a company like that. The company provides Palantir Gotham, a software platform which enables users to identify patterns hidden deep within data sets, ranging from signal intelligence sources to reports from confidential information, as well as facilitates the handoff between analysts and operational users, helping operators plan and execute real-world responses to threats. So, they've talked about being involved in the wars that are going on at the moment, and you could say that when wars are on, that actually helps the company. So some people don't want to go there in terms of investing in that sort of thing. Can't say that I'm that keen on that sort of thing myself, but they are also expanding in commercial area, and we'll see that. And another thing that investors will know is that they are based in Denver, Colorado. So they moved out of Silicon Valley. Peter Thiel's talked about that he's not really aligned with most Silicon Valley companies, and also Alex Karp's talked about that too. So the company also offers Palantir Foundry, a platform that transforms the ways organizations operate by creating a central operating system for their data. So we're talking big data. It used to be called big data. It's not really sort of mentioned that much anymore. It's more AI is mentioned more with what you do with the data. So, and enables individual users to integrate and analyze the data they need in one place. In addition, it provides Palantir Apollo, a software that enables customers to deploy their own software virtually in any environment. I've seen videos of Palantir and they had the software working. In terms of military, it's kind of in the field. Actually in the field of battle that they help out. And they also, I understand, work with the NHS in England and Britain for health software. So there's many different uses for it. Okay, let's move on here. Another thing that I like to see is that I like to take note of is how many really well-known great investors are invested in the company. And we can see here, this is GuruFocus. I'll leave a link in the description to that. This is the financial software that I use. It's very useful, and the Guru trades on Palantir, recent Guru trades. We see Kathy Wood from ARK has added 16.07% recently, just in the last quarter, in that last quarter of 2023. And this price is up 36.89%. I believe Kathy Wood sold out. I remember in the bear market of 2022, they sold out of Palantir, and it was a bit of a shock at the time, because they seemed to have such conviction. And there was one quarter there when they seemed to be not doing so well, and ARK bailed out, and the price was pretty low, and now they're back in. So it's one thing about ARK that I'm not so keen on, is that they talk about 5-year time horizon, but they really kind of trade a lot like that, getting in and out. So some familiar names. Ken Fisher is a new buy for Ken Fisher in the last quarter, 0%. So not a big position there. Ownership 42,736 current shares, whereas Kathy Wood ARK's got over 10 million. So you might not recognize some of these investors, but Mario Gabelli is a famous value investor, done very well. Ray Dalio, of course, he's retired, but that would be Bridgewater, I'm sure. Jim Simmons, or is it Simons? He's, that's a quantitative trader using algorithms, sort of secret kind of algorithms, who's done incredibly well over time. Kathy Wood again, Paul Tudor Jones, who's more of a trader, Jeffries Group. So Joel Greenblatt, who's one of the greatest investors of our time. So his fund's been involved in it. Stanley Druckenmiller sold out of it in last 30th of the 6th, so that's halfway through last year. He sold out, but he moves pretty quickly. He might be back in it, who knows. I know he's in NVIDIA. He's talked about being in, sort of riding the bubble in NVIDIA, riding the AI bubble, saying that, yes, it's been about a year since these companies have done well through AI, but he actually said in a Bloomberg interview, and I did a video about this, where he said that at the point in time when he did it, it was 10 months in, and he said, comparing it to the dot-com bubble, and he thinks it is a mini bubble, maybe growing into a bigger bubble, that these things don't go on for just 10 months or a year. They often go for 2 or 3 years. So he's still in NVIDIA, and he might be in it for a lot longer, kind of riding that bubble. And he's got a lot of experience. He hasn't had a down year in more than 3 decades. He did at the dot-com bubble go into it a bit heavy at the top and lost money, but he made it all back within a year. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so here, another interesting thing is the insider transactions. I always like to look at those too. And we can see there's a lot of sells there, a lot of sells. Look at that. No buys, a lot of sells. And we can see here, let me just minimize this a little bit. We can see here, below me here, Alex Karp selling in February this year. So directors have been selling, and it seems to be direct sales too. So that's not a great sign. Does that say that they want to sell some? I'm not saying they're completely selling out or anything like that. I mean, people do sell for a lot of reasons. They only buy for one reason, really, that they think the stock's going up. They sell for many reasons, especially if they've been in it for a long time. We know the reasons that Elon Musk has sold some Tesla to do other things with the money. So we can't take too much from that. But don't like to see a lot of sales like that. Sell. But as we saw, the ownership is still pretty high. Like Peter Thiel owns a lot, and Alex Karp too. And here we start to get into some of the fundamentals of the company. I like to see this. This is GuruFocus again. So we can see that the market cap is at the moment $53 billion, and the enterprise value is $49. So $49 billion, sorry. And so it's a fairly big company. People who regularly, a viewer regularly or a listener of mine know that I'm into smaller companies, and I like to think about the long runway for growth. And we could say, does this have a long runway for growth? Could it be 10x from here, which is a very big company? This is perhaps one of those companies that could do that. It could be, I think it could be a huge company one day. There's a lot of scope, optionality, and I've talked about Peter Thiel thinking that way from the beginning. He thinks big, and from that point of view, he's obviously still in it. He hasn't sold out or anything completely. And so, could it be a 10x from here? Could it be a 100x? It's doubtful. 100x is doubtful, but 10x, 500 billion. There are multiple companies that are around $1 trillion. And this probably is a company that could get big given the scope of what they could do. But let's have a look at something else. Here we go. Here we can see the GF value, GuruFocus value. They've got a certain way of valuing things. It's a value investing focused site, but they're valuing it at the moment at 1626, and so that's significantly overvalued, because it's 24.38 right now. So, you can see the line there under that green line would be fairly valued. But I haven't looked at it. I haven't done the work myself. As I said, this is the first time I've looked at it. But let's have a look at some of these initial fundamentals here right now. So we can see the debt to equity is really low. So that's a good sign. All the green, obviously the green is good. And we can see the gross margin 80.63%. That's good. Operating margin 5.39 at the moment. Not so great. You know, we need to dive in for the reasons for that. I'm sure if you're an investor, you'll know. Let me know about some of these figures, what's behind them. If you can see something that I'm pointing out that I don't think is great, but isn't, there might be reasons for it being okay. Net margin 9.43. Now I like to look at these return on capital figures here, which, return on capital employed. That's a really interesting figure. 15 is about the average, so this is below average at the moment. And return on capital, Joel Greenblatt's associated with that. He likes to look at that. Return on invested capital, similar to return on capital employed, 12.72, which is not bad. It's on the low side. You can see it's light green there. Free cash flow margin, 20-31 there. It's got a solid green. And if we go down here, PE ratio 270, and the forward PE ratio 82. So, to justify that kind of multiple, you want a company to be growing really fast. 3-year total revenue growth rate, 23%. So this is just a superficial look, by the way, but we can see these. Look at all this red down here. Look at all this red here. So that indicates that it's expensive. And as I said, this AI bubble going on, I think it is turning into a bubble. When AI is real, I have no problem with saying that AI is a real thing, and it's going to be transformative, but exuberance happens in markets. This is actually a quite old company, more than 20-year company at this point. But Peter Thiel has mentioned how, they've mentioned how they want to be in it for the long term, very long term, not just quarter to quarter. And so they've taken this to build something big, 20 years, and it is finally moving into positive direction. Return on equity, trailing 12 months, 7%. We can see here that these are all, they were deeply negative going back to 2018, and now they're sort of turning positive, strongly positive. ROIC is 13, ROCE is positive, it's getting bigger. So, I said that the average is about 15% for S&P 500 companies. That's below average, but definitely climbing there. All these figures are going in the right direction, which, the market was pretty happy with after earnings, has to be said. Those gross margins, good. It's always been good gross margins, 70s, high 60s, high 70s, high into the 80s now. And operating margin improving. Look at that, improving over time. So if it goes in this right direction, it's definitely a good thing. So everything looking up, all these numbers are turning positive, then getting better over time. This is why we look at their financials over time, going back years, because we can see the change over time. Important to see that, not just look at 1 year or 1 quarter or whatever. However, we will look at the last quarter, and revenue here, you can see that is steadily growing. Strongly growing. 2018 it was 595, and it's now over 2,000. So growing fairly strongly over that time. Okay, so let's move to the investor deck here. So Q4 highlights and financial year highlights. So just in the last quarter, we can see US commercial revenue grew 70%, so the market reacted to that, plus 12% and 12% quarter on quarter. And commercial revenue grew 33%. Revenue grew 20% year on year for the quarter. Closed 103 deals over $1 million. So that's kind of impressive. They're doing lots of deals. 2x a year ago. So this is how the market's definitely responded to this in a very positive way. Is it too positive? Possibly. I'm not sure. With those multiples, I honestly don't think that I'd be a buyer at this point. That's just my opinion. I can see people buying there. Financial year highlights, we can see US commercial revenue growth 36%. So the market really responded to that. And the revenue growth of 17%, double digits. I've just done a video about Alibaba. So some really pretty low growth there for Alibaba for different reasons. Go and have a look at that if you're interested in that. This is why the market responded well. Definitely much more positive than it has before. This is them. That's Peter Thiel right there, isn't it? That's Peter Thiel, Alex Karp. So Peter Thiel's still involved, and he obviously went on this trip. Last month, the board of directors of Palantir hosted its first meeting of 2024 in Tel Aviv. So they're in Israel. It's fairly controversial, being involved in that kind of conflict at the moment, helping out there. Following the meeting, Palantir agreed to strategic partnership with the Israeli Military of Defense to support Palantir technology to help the country's war effort. Okay, so, they definitely take sides and help out with wars there. There's a lot of the controversy about what's going on there. We won't get into politics, but you can see the obvious controversy there. We are proud to stand alongside Israel, supporting a culture of innovation, technology, and democracy. So definitely taking sides, and they talk about helping Western countries that are not involved with China, that they won't be selling any to China anytime soon. They've been very clear on that. We are proud to have been chosen to help the NHS deliver a federated data platform. So there's been controversy about this, about them working with the NHS, National Health Service in Britain. Our software has already helped bring down the inpatient waiting list at Chelsea and Westminster NHS Foundation Trust by 28%. So part of it's about privacy, having the data, and they've said that they can't access the data. It's all very private. But then there was that controversy about way back, as I mentioned, with the NSA and spying on American citizens. So this is why it's a kind of controversial company. There's no point to not acknowledge that it's the case. So there's the investor deck. You can go through that if you haven't already. It's on their website, their investor relations website. That's where you find these things. Really good to go through the deck. So this is my initial look at Palantir. From what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing that it is pretty expensive. The share price itself is being swept up in this AI wave. So I wouldn't be kind of going in here. And it's not my cup of tea in terms of the company, from what they do. We've followed Peter Thiel for a long time, and it's not my cup of tea, I don't think, but I'll be following it. I'll probably make more videos about it, and to understand it, I like to understand as many companies, I like to analyze as many companies as I can. You can see kind of pattern recognition in the numbers, so you learn to see what's a good company and what's not a good company. I think this one does have potential. It would not surprise me, if it got big, it got to that $500 billion or more trillion sort of size. And so it's got a lot of growth to come, I think. No guarantees. That's just my opinion, my guess. I can see that the total addressable market's pretty big, and they are definitely a leader here. Following it for quite a few years, actually, without diving super deep, that it is, as Peter Thiel says, possibility of kind of, if not a monopoly, then having a massive market share and expanding. And this software is obviously very good. So that's my summing up of Palantir. I'm not a buyer of this. I haven't bought it at any point. It's not my cup of tea, as I said, but I know it's a lot of people's, and that it could be this big company going forward into the future, one of those big companies like these other mega cap tech companies in the US. I can see that. I think there's definitely a possibility from what they do, and there's a lot of scope. But what do I invest in? I talk about the stocks I invest in, what I'm analyzing on my Patreon, the Art of Value Patreon, just for the price of a cup of coffee each month. I talk about stocks, and I post all these videos on there, ad-free and extra videos, bonus videos, and sort of blog posts as well, talking about different stocks and different sectors that I'm interested in. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. And also, please remember to like. If you've got value out of this video, please hit that like button to help to spread it to more people. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a video here of what the YouTube algorithm thinks that you in particular should watch next based on your history and so forth. So go and watch that now if you want to. And thanks to everybody for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next one.